All I do is work. See if we can get some. City council meeting on this, the 23rd day of August, 2022, 6:01 PM for a regular scheduled meeting. We will now stand for the invocation and pledge to the flag. We have a guest with us this evening from New Life Church, Daniel Chambers. Would you please step up to the podium and lead us in our opening prayer? We sure would appreciate it.
Sure. All eyes are closed. our hearts are open, our minds are clear. Father in heaven, we come before you with humble hearts and humble minds. We thank you for blessing this city. We thank you for blessing this gathering. God, I pray for those that shall make decisions today. God, you said, if any man lack wisdom, ask of you. And so we're asking you that the wisdom of God will be the head in everything that goes on in this meeting. And God, I pray for those that shall speak. God, we ask that you season our words with grace. These are our neighbors, our servants, our leaders of our community, and just help us as we go through this process, God. We pray, God, for those that don't have a voice, that you put the burden on the heart of those that's going to make decisions to look out for all people everywhere. And God, we pray for this city that the power of God, the presence of God, and the peace of God will rule, rest, and abide. All those that love Jesus said, amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Place the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
From the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is time for citizens' comments. Shirley, do you want to sign up to speak? Okay. Okay, with that being said, we'll move on to presentations and announcements. We have a very special thing to do this afternoon. We have a guest here.
Josiah?
Yeah. Josiah Mullen. Would you like to step up here? Would your parents like to come up here? Certainly appreciate it. You're all dressed up. So let me tell you a little story about this young man. So we were out at, come out here and look at these folks out here. We were at Fair Park the other evening, and we were doing some inspections out there, some things. We caught this young man just working up a storm. And he's a volunteer. And he's a very young volunteer, but that's the kind we like to have. And so we thought that was very special. So we talked to his dad and we said, we're going to have to do something for this young man. He's giving up his time. I know he'd probably be rather playing some kind of ball or something. But he was out there. Actually, what he was doing was he was cleaning the dog stuff. I don't know how to say that. But anyway, the little doggy bags that are out there in the little containers and the boxes and rings. He was disposing of that in the trash cans. Come on. So we thought that was so very special. So we're going to honor him this evening with a very nice document here, a very official document, and I'll show that to you. That's got your name on there. And we're just so proud of you. We want to keep you volunteering for the city. Look at the camera over here. Cut your picture.
I've taken this picture already.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's great. That is so great. Here's the newspaper. Let her finish. Let's get the newspaper. He's going to take the picture. All right. Here he goes. Okay.
But you might get one more.
Okay, here. She wants to do one.
Totally uncharacteristic.
We got plenty of
It's
time.
so uncharacteristic, but your mouth is open.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is what it's all about, is volunteerism. And this young man is setting a fine example. Thank you. Y'all are welcome back here anytime. If I catch him out there again, I'm gonna do something. Okay. With that being done, do we have any more announcements from anybody on the council, staff? That's all right. Let's move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, these items are all passed in one motion. Any item on here can be pulled and put over to the main agenda if needed, but it's not necessary at this time. These are just normal duties and normal things that we do. So, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed.
Sure, I have a correction.
Okay.
On number 5 of the special meetings, it just says, council member, nothing, made a motion scheduling, so there's no name on there.
On which minutes?
Number, the special meeting,
On special meeting minutes.
Number 5.
It has to be a second, but no motion.
So that would be a correction to item number 5 and make the motion.
yes.
Okay. No
And
problem.
then,
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please. Approve it again with that correction.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. All right, okay. It is approved this time officially. All right, let's move down to council business, regular session. Item number 3 is to open a public hearing on the City of Henderson proposed 2022-23 budget. This is a regular routine matter. This is what we do when we're getting to the end of the final approval of the budget. This is not the final approval this evening, but it's getting very near. And we'll open the public hearing. Okay? Anybody that needs to speak on the budget or would like to? Okay. No hands being raised or no one standing up. Council, do y'all have any questions about the budget? Okay, if you do not, do I hear a motion to, well, we'll move to item number 4. We'll pass on the rest of that one. We'll move to item number 4. That's a motion to close the budget public hearing. Right.
I make a motion that we close the budget public hearing.
Sorry. All in favor, motion has been made, seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Okay, public hearing is closed at this time. Okay, we'll open a public hearing on item number 5 on the 2022-23 proposed tax rate. Same thing on this one. If you have anybody wanting to say something about the tax rate or ask a question or something, now's the time to do it. You got one? Go ahead, sir.
Could you state again what the tax rate is and how it compares to last year?
Okay. I think we got it right here.
Do you have it right in front of you, Karen, or close?
Karen's got it.
It's right, it's almost exactly a penny
0.551 1 penny.
lower than what it was last year. Almost exactly 1 penny.
54182.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull that.
So it's basically the same, but it's just slightly lower.
Yeah, it's a penny lower than what it was last year.
So that answers your question. Okay.
And I can shoot you the exact what it was hardly, but it's right at the penny.
Okay, all right. So with that being said, and no other comments or anything on that, we'll move to item number 6 and motion to close the tax rate public hearing. I hear a motion.
make a motion to close.
Second. Sir?
I want to say something.
Okay, that's fine. We'll wait for it.
Considering the property value increase, how much, I realize that the tax rate may be a little less, what is the revenue, increase in revenue was proposed, or with an increase in property values that have gone up? So there's a substantial, even though the rate may be lower, everybody's taxes will be significantly more.
Yeah, that's true. And that's, That's determined by the legislature.
Do you have the revenue number with you, Karen?
Did not bring that sheet, but I believe the additional revenue was around 350,000
Over last year?
over last
Over
year
last year revenue,
with that rate.
total revenue.
Okay. Yeah, not on one item, overall for everything.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a significant amount, but it's spread out over the whole thing, the whole county thing. It's not that bad.
But you do realize that it's gonna be raising the taxes considerably.
Yes, sir, it is gonna raise the taxes, yes, sir. Certainly is. Certainly is. Like I said, we, the city, have no control over that. It's proposed to us through legislation. Yes, Brian,
What did you mean when you said the city has no control over it?
over the,
You clearly do have control over the budget.
yeah, the budget.
Yeah,
We do the budget,
and
yes.
the budget, you do have control over
Yeah.
it, so I mean, to say that you don't have any control over it,
Well, I meant,
that's not right.
okay, I meant control over the proposal that the legislation gives us to increase the value.
My understanding is the legislature didn't do that, the controller's office did.
Well, that's,
And, you know, the legislators are patting themselves on the back for property tax relief, but the controller's taking the initiative to increase the property value.
yes, okay, so how does that give us the right to change it?
Well, you don't,
We have to do what the controller.
your tax rate is based upon your budget, so you do
Yeah.
have control over what goes into that budget. And then you figure out the tax rate. You do have control over the whole process, Mayor, in my opinion.
It doesn't seem like we do, but, okay.
So essentially, when you vote on your budget and it's approved, then that's when the tax rate is set on that budget, is that correct?
Yeah, we could make changes. We could lower the tax rate even more. That would not be very suitable to do that. However, I suppose it could be done.
So I say if the tax revenue were suddenly be several $1 million more coming into the city, would the city just rebudget or repurpose several $1 million to fit that new revenue? Or would
I feel like if it was that considerable, yes, that would be a prime example to do something very quickly. Yes, sir. I really do. I don't think this is gonna be that significant. I have not seen those numbers. So I can't really adequately announce to that as to exactly what those numbers are. Anybody else have a
But
better explanation?
I'm confused on what your question was, what you were just saying.
Well, you'll have, the city has their tax rate.
Right.
On taxpayer like me that lives in the city. So my values, my property value is expected to go up $40,000 over the next, what is it, 10, well, so many years.
Right.
Anyway, so whatever revenue is generated from that, from all of the new tax value, I'm saying, none of you know how much that new revenue value will be for the coming.
For the coming what?
That was the
Yeah, she said
That was 300.
on top of
350,000.
the growth,
Yeah,
off the
$350,000.
rate, what she said, the 350 total. You have a question about that 350, about how it relates to the budget
Well, it
this
seems
next
a little
year?
low,
That's kind of
seems a little low to me.
Yeah.
My understanding is it would be significantly more than that. But,
The certified values have gone up quite a bit since last year. I mean, last year's was like, 746 million versus 840 million this year.
Right. Yeah.
That's,
If you purchased or sold a home, you found that out real quick. Yeah. That's true.
You know, the math off the tax rate, that's where the lowering of the tax rate came in by a penny. What the mayor, I think, was talking about on the legislature would be the 3.5% cap on the revenue cap that was put in place in Senate Bill by Senate Bill 2 back previous legislation, previous sessions. And so we can only do 3.5% more in the revenue than what we had last year without going back to an election or voters. And so that's what pushed the rate, he's gonna push that rate down a penny to stay under that, only a 3.5% cap. So ultimately, it's about 3.5% more revenue than last year's.
That's.
So the number is, yeah, roughly about that, and that's on the property tax side only of our, so that's about a half of our budget, roughly. Are we pretty close on the half of the sales tax is actually, yeah, it's not quite, property tax is still a little more.
Well, sales tax actually brings in the most.
Yeah, so sales tax is a little more actually, it's still doing really well. So as that increases, the sales tax piece, the hope is that that drives the other side down, right? The property tax piece down, and we can continue to push that rate down a little bit too. That's the ideal piece behind it. So it's about 3.5% increase on revenue over last year. And that's per the Senate Bill 2 coming from the legislature in the last session. That puts that into play. The appraised values did go up. So those are two pieces of the equation, right? The appraised values and the tax rate. Appraised values go up. You only go up 3.5% of your revenue, the tax rate has to go down. And that was the whole reason for the legislation push the way it was. Now, how it happened in the state and behind the push for the comptroller's office, what Mr. Ballard was talking about and all that, that doesn't have anything to do with us. We have no idea how to control that, but we can simply do 3.5% more or less. If we try to do more than that, which we could, some cities or counties would do that, it goes to the voters. It would go onto the ballot automatic for that increase. And we don't ever want to try to do that. There's a lot of reasons for that.
So that penny reduction, that essentially keeps you at that 3.5%.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Had we not had that, would we have dropped a penny? I don't know. That's a whole different conversation to have. But we knew we were working in that structure for a long time. We've been talking about that. So we have to make the adjustments internally to do that within all the city services and fire and police and all that. These two. I hope that helps a little bit with the question.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, so we were attempting to take a vote on it, motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Okay. Item number 6, motion to close the hearing is closed. Item number 7 on the agenda is for consideration and possible action upon a Chapter 312 tax abatement agreement for West Fraser Wood Products Incorporated, located in the reinvestment zone known as the Henderson Industrial Park. Okay. Mr. Larry?
We have a little posse here today, so I wanted to introduce all of the posse. We have Stacy Wages here with Ernst & Young, and she's been working for West Fraser. We have Raymond Mitchell over here with West Fraser, and Weldon Cook is here, and then Brian Ballard's one of our board members here. So I want to make sure I introduce all of y'all. I think y'all are all familiar with this. I don't know how much we want to go into this, but we shared with y'all a lot of information over the last few months on the project. It's not a new project. We've been talking about it here in Henderson for about 6 years. Raymond, do you have a presentation you want to make, by the way? I'm just
6 hour power here.
Okay. So we went through a lot of discussions and all trying to figure out what we need to do with this, and we came down with the plan to do a Chapter 312, which is the old-fashioned, it's been around for years and years, tax abatement on this project. It's a $250 million plus renovation of the plant, West Fraser plant here. Will virtually double their input and output. A lot more train car traffic for the community, and that's a good thing too. So we're proposing to do a 5 years at 90% and 5 years at 80% tax abatement for this project. And so that's the, hopefully everybody's agreed on that. And so we believe everybody's on board with that. And so that's what's up for approval today. We'll have to let the paperwork catch up to it as we get numbers figured out a little later. And then we'll also be at the county commissioners meeting on September 1st for an exact request to the county on the same tax abatement. So Anybody else? Y'all have any questions of, hopefully those guys?
Okay,
Okay,
with that being said, do I hear a motion to approve? Motion has been made.
I'm gonna add to that we approve this contingent on the approval from the West Fraser Board of Directors.
correct.
That is. Motion has been made and seconded. You get the second, Sharon?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Item number 7 stands approved. Thank y'all so much for being here and supporting this project. Thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon a bid opening through head code on street and drainage bids for the East Texas Regional Business Park. Mr. Neal.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council. We're here tonight to present the results of bid opening for the new East Texas Regional Business Park Street and Drainage Project. And I think if you could, maybe put up the color slide. It shows, it would be the next one, John. Right there. So that's the 300-acre East Texas Regional Business Park. The main road that runs through the middle of the park is Endeavor Drive. There's a small cul-de-sac that branches off the southern end of that road. Come down today, you can point to that little cul-de-sac right there at lot 8 and 9. Right down just a little, right. That little road right there in cul-de-sac is a second part of the roadway system, and that street is named Regional Drive. So we have Endeavor Drive and Regional Drive. So the results of the bid, we had 3 bidders. The project base bid was $3,541,626. And that included all of the road work, all of the drainage. There's major drainage structures throughout there, throughout the park. There's some sediment control, erosion control issues that are management areas that we're using. That's just upstream of that blue pond that you see located off of the main drive going through the park. Additionally, we took additive alternate bids on the small parking lot area that is just south of the lake. And you can see that just south of the lake, a little small parking area. And then also there's a walking trail that goes around the lake, connects back to that parking area. And those 2 items, the low bid on that was $373,162. As a result of the bids, we were a little surprised. Our bids came in very high. We weren't anticipating it to be quite that high. We did receive 3 respected contractors that bid on the project. The project was out for bid for about a month. And so we felt that we got a representative bid. It's just a higher bid than what we were anticipating. As a result of that, we offered up some potential cost-saving measures for the board to consider at their meeting last Thursday. One of those items would be the small cul-de-sac road that you see there that serves lot 8, part of lot 8, and mainly lot 9. That road could be eliminated from the project because even though we have these lots laid out the way they are, we all know that more than likely when you have tenants coming in to buy these lots, they may buy several lots in one opportunity, or they may just buy a small lot, or they may change some of the lot lines. So it's very likely lots 8 and 9 could be sold as one parcel. We just don't know that yet. So as an opportunity to reduce some of the costs, get our main infrastructure in, which is the main spine road, we looked at eliminating that section of roadway. And to eliminate that one roadway and the drainage structure associated with that roadway, we could cut $304,515 just out of that one item. Also, the spring-fed lake that you see, Jay, if you could go to the next exhibit, which would be 106. So that's the cul-de-sac you see. The lake area is there a little bit to your left. The dark line that circles the lake is the walking trail. And then you can see the parking lot that's located on the south end of that. On the upper reach of that lake, we were recommending that we put in a sediment pond, a weir, concrete weir that would go across the creek channel on the upper reach of that lake. Because as construction is going on, we're going to have a substantial amount of potential sediment that would inundate that pond and require that pond has to be cleared for future use, aesthetic value, and an amenity to the park. We offered up a alternative to that. That item alone was $136,000. As an alternative to that, we told the board, due to some of the construction that's going on in the sewer and water portion of the park right now, we've unearthed a number of large iron ore boulders, many much larger than the size of that table. So we told the board if we could eliminate that concrete structure, that we could have our contractor go in there and construct a rock dam that would serve the same purpose. And we feel that we could save easily $100,000 just in that one item alone. So that, with cutting the cul-de-sac and the concrete weir, and all of that would total up to $507,515 potential cuts if they chose to do so. The board discussed this in their meeting, and they made a recommendation to proceed with the project, which included the base bid and the additive alternate bid, less these items that total $507,515. And they recommended to award the contract to the low bidder, which is Rayford Truck and Tractor in Marshall, for a total project bid of $3,407,273. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, the head code board already approved all that.
Let me think about it a moment. See if there are any questions.
By the way, this is a concrete road. The main road is 37 foot wide. And it runs from the south end of the park to the north end of the park. Connecting Highway 323, the Overton Highway, and FM 2276 on the north side.
Any more questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve?
I was going to ask,
Okay.
that cul-de-sac there between 8 and 9,
Yes,
could that, I guess, be decided on later? If somebody bought 8 and 9 tracks and decides they don't want that, or would that just be part of it
well,
if it was purchased?
similarly, if you look at lot 10A, you see how long potentially, and all of this is conceptual. You know, we're making the opportunity for a mixture of smaller lots and larger lots. Obviously, we would love to have, or I'm sure the head of the board would love to have someone come in and buy a whole block of lots. put a major business there. So this is more of a starting concept, and we know that it will change. So for example, lot 10A, with the size lot that is, it would manage a large business. You see how long their driveway is. Similarly, lot 9 could be the same way, where they just have a long driveway that serves their lot. Lot 8 actually has access from the main road. Doesn't necessarily mean that that tenant would need a back access to their property. So it just gives them some opportunities to be flexible and try to reduce cost everywhere they can.
I'd like to add also, number one is in this area right in here, there's a lot of slope. So it's gonna be hard to build something really big down in there. Another thing is all out here, we had to dodge oil well stuff and pipelines. And so like there's some oil well stuff right in this area. And you can see a light line coming across right about here. And then this line goes all the way across back and forth, bouncing around there, is an oil pipeline. So we've had to maneuver some of these designs around the pipelines. There's a pipeline that goes from right there back down toward this direction. There's another one that comes all the way across like this. And some of these can be moved over time, but in the meantime, there's some there. And so we dodged those when we drew this drawing. Like Neil said, it is just a conceptual drawing at this time. So we don't know if that cul-de-sac would ever be needed in the long run.
And certainly it's going to be, that property is going to be reserved. So should that need come up in the future, then negotiations could be made with that tenant to possibly put the drive back in. Hopefully the time when our costs will level out a little bit. The main roadway on the west side will have a 5-foot sidewalk that runs the length of it. And so it'll interconnect with the walking path that would go around the lake. There will be, as part of the base bid work, there will be some improvements made to the dam on the lake. The lake has suffered some structural damage to the dam just because of the amount of water that goes through there. So once things are developed, that's going to only increase substantially. And so we're going to harden up that spillway by putting a concrete spillway to help with the erosion. You see a sign of the Greenbelt area that says Greenbelt Trails. That's not a part of this project. That could be something that could be done in the future. That's not included in this work.
Any more questions? Comments?
When are we looking at getting started on that?
If you were to approve this expenditure by HEDCO tonight, we would get to the contractor next week so that they can issue their bonds on the project. That will put us in the 1st of October. You would be looking at a December start date, likely, on this project.
And how long do we think that project would last?
Probably 9 months. We're projecting 9 months.
And that's just the streets, not the drives.
No, so disregard the buildings and driveways. It's more for concept and promotional use and trying to attract new businesses. What we would be building is the main roadway, and there's numerous culverts, drainage structures that would go under the main roadway. That is the primary cost of all of this $3 million today. I would encourage any of you to, if you've had the chance to go out there and see some of the boulders that have been unearthed, they're pretty massive.
does this number compare to what was originally projected this portion?
Our base bid, we had an estimate of, 2.9 million.
2.9.
It came in at 3.4 million.
That was out the, cost reductions, 2.4 is out the cost reductions.
The 3.4 included all of that. It did not include the little small public parking area south of the lake, nor the walking trails that go around the lake.
Yeah, the low bid was 3.914 before reduction.
3.91 was everything, including all of the parking lot. It's a little over 3.5 million for the main road and the cul-de-sac road.
But again, around the lake, that's a separate portion of the walking trail, a separate.
It was an additive offer, and the board elected to put that into the project.
But that,
We were looking at making cost-cutting measures to eliminate the things that we talked about, which is a little over 507,000, and add back the 373,000, which is the parking lot and walking trail.
I move we approve the bid as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Like sign opposed. Item number 8 stands approved. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, John. Item number 9 on the agenda is consideration and possible action upon head coach 2022-2023 program of works. John, you're back on duty.
I might as well just stay here. The program of work doesn't change much from year to year, so it's virtually the same as last year, and you have it in your packet, and so I would just say that we recommend approval of it as presented. This is a statutory item we have to present and provide. It's required by law.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Item number 9 stands approved. Thank you. Item number 10 on the agenda is consideration and possible action on head code 2022-2023 budget. John?
You all have a copy of our budget. Other than the capital items that we just discussed, the budget really hasn't changed a whole lot. We've just kind of moved around a few things. There's a big reduction that you see in out of 6509. We've changed that. We have the budget is expenditures, and then we have capital expenditures, and they're dealt with differently in the accounting process. So what that shows is the 225 is the remainder of our expenses that we have with Stokes Engineering, and so we've moved the remainder of our industrial park or business park expenditures to a capital account. So that's why you see a big change in that number. I don't have any other major things to discuss. If y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer. On the second page, on the back of the page, you see the number 7502, which is the capital items, and that's where we moved the big expenses on the business park. So that's why that's a big number there.
We're 390 to.
I'm sorry?
I said it went from 390 to.
That's the total, yeah, it would be 2.
It's a shell game. We just moved my numbers around just to keep everybody confused.
I make a motion to approve the budget.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Same opposed. John?
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Number 10. Item number 11 is consideration and possible action upon an amendment to ordinance 2022-08-12, updating the water conservation plan for all customers served by the city of Henderson Water Supply. Mr. Lloyd? Step
Mayor, council, TCEQ and Texas Water Development Board requires all municipalities to update their water conservation plan ordinance every 5 years. So 5 years from now, I'll be up here again. Asking to hear the first reading of the ordinance. You think the second one is on the regular scheduled council meeting or is it on the special?
No, I believe we moved it to the 13th.
Okay. So it'll be on, again, on September 23rd? 13th, I'm sorry. So this is just the first reading. I don't believe there's any action to be taken.
Yeah, it's just the first reading.
Yeah.
Any update or anything?
Just this is past 5 years, water sales, and I think the new building code, 2013, we adopted it.
Okay.
That's the only changes on it. Thank you, council.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's move to item number 12 on the agenda. That's consideration and action upon the second reading of ordinance 2022-08-11 that would amend the zoning map for the city of Henderson, changing the current zoning of a property from industrial, which is IS, to high-density, single-family residential, which is R3. This property is located at 200 Morningside Avenue. Mr. Hughes.
Mayor, council, good evening. This will be your second reading. We discussed this last month. Mr. Mata has purchased the old St. Jude's Church facility and is planning on living there in the parsonage, what we call the parsonage, and remodeling the rest of it. And in order for him to get lower rates on utilities and taxes and what have you, we recommend that council approve the second reading that would amend the zoning map from institutional to R3. And we believe it's the right move to make for this property. It'll never become a church again by doing this. And he has no future plans for that purpose. So we need to make it residential, and the rest of the properties all around it are zoned R3 already. And we'll see what we can do to help him, with permitting and what have you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Yeah, such a quick, you gotta be quick. Item number 12 stands approved. Item number 13, consideration and possible action upon a minor plat subdividing one parcel into two located at the same address, 200 Morningside.
Yes, with this being rezoned now after approval, Mr. Mata is wanting to divide this property at 200 Morningside in half, eventually converting the old sanctuary to a primary residence on that parcel. In order to do that, he's had it surveyed, and we have the plat.
Yeah, we do. They doing all kinds of stuff up here.
The plat,
Is that it?
there you go.
Yeah.
So the front footage on each parcel will meet the minimum widths for R3. Side setbacks for everything will be in place and be met. And our staff recommends that the minor plat be approved so we can get it filed and let Mr. Motto begin all his work.
Look, I have a question. If it's gonna be down in half, what about there's two other buildings in the back?
Those are.
Are they gonna be part of the?
They'll be part of this lot over here on the south side. The accessory structure, what we consider an accessory structure, storage for storage.
They'll be part of the lot with the sanctuary, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, no, they'll be where the residence is, these two buildings, yeah, they'll be on this side.
I see. So you're pointing opposite of this TV.
So it's right behind the residence
And then the one on the back fence, yes. They call that building on the back the small hall.
Okay, the small hall, but then there's the big hall in the very back.
That's not included on this, that property is already zoned R3.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Mata understands that can only be used in the future for residential purposes. We cannot operate a commercial building, commercial business on that property. It can be divided, we passed an ordinance a while back that permitted triplexes and quadplexes, so that structure could be converted to multifamily living. And as long as it stays below a quadplex, it's 7,000 square foot building. But that is not included on this plat. It was already platted separately and zoned in R3 already. I mean, quite frankly, it should have been institutional at some point along the line, but was missed. But there again, it'll never be used for religious purposes, as far as we know. Mr. Martin has no plans at all for the large hall to be used for that at this time.
motion to approve the plat.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Item number 13 stands approved. Item number 14 is consideration and possible action on the minor plat combining two parcels into one located at 305 and 307 Johnson Drive.
Okay, this property is owned by the Green family, and they purchased that small little pork chop leg over there from Galen Range. Mr. Green has plans to build a storage building for his boat in the backyard and needed access to get in there and out, and he purchased that piece of property from Mr. Raines. And he's gonna build that building, so he wants to build a fence and what have you, secures the building and belongings. So we've suggested that he go ahead and make this all one parcel in order to give it the square footage for a piece of property of his own. So our staff recommends that this minor plat be approved as well.
I make a motion that it's approved.
Second. Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Like sign opposed. Item number 14 stands approved. Thank you. Item number 15 is consideration and possible action on the second reading of ordinance 2022-08-10, a no parking ordinance between Richardson and the dead end of South Van Buren Street.
Well, council, y'all remember where the Russ County Rescue Unit is on that little dead end of Van Buren? We read the first reading of the ordinance the last meeting, but this is due to, potential triplex being built there, parking, concerns on that road with emergency vehicles coming in and out of that, facility. We want to make sure no car is going to park on the street, and they stay on the private area that, is in play. So as that went to the Board of Adjustment for that variance and all that was the agreement that we set out during the council, with that we would look at an ordinance for no parking there, keep it a little safer. And once this passes after tonight, if you guys approve, then we'll immediately be putting, some signs and stuff out that talks about the emergency vehicles and whatnot. So it's ahead of that construction.
Motion approved. I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Like sign opposed. Item number 15 stands approved. Item number 16, consideration and possible action on a resolution for the sale of 113 East Main Street, city-owned property.
This is the building downtown that was approved, last council meeting. I came out of executive session and approved the sale of that building. We need to have a resolution so we can, go with the sale of the property that give the mayor the authority.
This is, yes.
The mayor the authority to sign that contractor or on the closing. So the bank requires, and the top of it requires that resolution. So that's what this is. You already did the action last time, but they really want a resolution.
And authorizing the mayor to sign off on behalf of the city to convey the property by
You
deed.
Right.
You sure? Been waiting on it. It's all yours.
You sure?
It's yours.
Okay. I make a motion that we, for the resolution on the property for sale at 113 Main Street.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Like sign
I think we should give it back.
Item number 16 stands approved. We'll now move to departmental reports. As you can see in your packet, you've probably got those reports, I think. If you need to look at those, go ahead and look at them. If you have any questions for any of the supervision that are here, produce those reports. They might be here to ask a few questions, answer a few questions, or whatever you might need. Also, boards and commissions, that's part of the same thing. A lot of minutes there, things of that nature. Anyway. Any questions?
Comment though, that it's, looks like the police department, your calls are up quite a bit. It's like overall last few months, right? Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it's good or bad. The rest of the numbers look like they check out.
As it gets warmer, we usually take on a little heavier call load.
It looks like May, June, and July. Quite a bit that way, over the last week, you got a year and a half.
Kids are out of school.
You don't really buy the tickets, so I guess. That's right.
That being said, it would be 6:56 p.m. We will now move into executive session to consult with city attorney, discuss real property located at 400, 402, 404 West Main Street. Economic Development Agreement in accordance with Warren, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Section 072.